My name is Kathy Moriarty, and I'm 48 years old. Even at this age, I'm working hard. My husband, Kyle, is a struggling novelist who is 4 years younger than me. Despite handling all the work, childcare, and housework, Kyle had the audacity to have a mistress.
I've heard that late life divorces are becoming more common, but I never thought my parents would go through one. I mean, you've been married for 22 years, right? It's surprising that anyone other than Mom could support Dad, who's so quiet and neurotic. And that mistress is only 6 years older than me. Even so, leaving Grandma out of it, how irresponsible is Dad? Living in the house bombarded with Grandma and the mistress, and soon the baby makes 4. It's shameless, and as a son, it's embarrassing.
My son, Ethan, standing by my side is truly reassuring.
Are you moving out yet? My new daughter-in-law and her baby are coming tomorrow.
Kyle's mother, Nancy, appears. She fully intends to stay in this house. But I had already made my move. I'll be gone in 3 hours.
You're just taking your own belongings. Why do we have to wait 3 hours?
Mom, what's going on?
Ethan asked me in a hushed voice.
Are you heading straight to the airport?
Pretty much. Then the movers arrived and they started carrying out my belongings. Well, Ethan, good luck with your new job and living alone for the first time. And well, I left a message for Kyle and Nancy with Ethan and walked out of the house. I got into a taxi and headed to the airport for my overseas transfer. 3 hours later, when Kyle looked into the house, he saw a scene he never expected.
What? What is this?
It's up to me what I do with my house. Don't think I'm going to be your yes person forever. I reflected on my history with Kyle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A male student bumped into me, fell back, and scattered his bag's contents. I helped him gather his belongings.
All manuscript paper. Are you writing a novel?
Well, yeah.
Interesting. Oh no, I'm going to be late.
I hurried to the station. When I slipped onto the train, I was surprised to find it surprisingly empty, and I found a seat.
Oh no, I still have some of his manuscript pages.
The next day, I looked for the student and found him easily. He was wearing traditional clothes at the university.
Kyle Moriarty, can I read the rest of this novel? I started reading it on the train yesterday, and it was so captivating that I almost missed my interview. You've got talent. If you have other novels, I'd love to read them. I'm now a fan. Am I fan club member number 1?
Kyle looked shy and awkward, but he seemed pleased by my praise. He still looks very youthful and has a boyish appearance. Despite his youthful appearance, Kyle's novels expressed the ugliness and brutality of humanity. When he was about to enter his junior year of college, Kyle abruptly dropped out. His unique worldview didn't fit in at school.
Well, there was no reason to go to college if you weren't there, Kathy.
I graduated and was assigned to the executive office of a major company as a secretary, leading a busy life.
You know we can still see each other on weekends. The office is closed then.
I had to be the one to initiate meetings. Kyle would never do it.
Kyle, I think I'm pregnant.
Oh,
Kyle, you never show any reaction. No emotions at all.
well, if we're doing that, then of course we'll have a baby.
Since you always wear traditional clothes, Should we consider having a traditional ceremony for the wedding?
Just remember, you have to clear some hurdles first.
I was 26 and Kyle was 22 at the time.
Pregnant? Aren't you ashamed? You're a successful career woman working for a top company for 4 years, and you seduced younger Kyle? Pregnant before marriage is a disgrace. I won't allow you to have this baby. First of all, Kyle is still just a 22-year-old kid. He's never been interested in people. Even if you have a baby, he won't help with childcare or even care for the child. Kyle may not be famous now, but one day his novels will be a hit. He needs an environment where he can focus solely on his writing to make that happen. He won't work, do housework, or take care of a child. Are you ready for that?
Nancy fired off like a machine gun.
Of course, I am. I'll work, and I don't expect Kyle to help with housework or childcare. Like you, I want him to focus on his writing. We're also buying a house. It will have a quiet writing room for Kyle and a library for his love of books.
You're buying a house with your own money, not with help from your family? I can't believe you've saved that much in just 4 years since college.
I've prepared $50,000 for the down payment. I'll cover the monthly mortgage and plan to pay it off by the time I'm 46.
With everything so well prepared, Nancy reluctantly agreed to the marriage. But we didn't have a wedding or reception.
Herbal tea is great after pulling an all-nighter.
It's so Kyle to have herbal tea instead of coffee.
Why are you in such a rush, Kathy?
I told you I'm going back to work today. And Ethan starts daycare today too.
Boom. So what about my lunch?
I made it for you. It's in the fridge. Just heat it up.
I don't know how to use the microwave.
Come on, Ethan. Lots of new friends today.
You're ignoring me, Kathy.
All right, Kyle. I'm off.
Ignoring Kyle's discontent, I hurried out of the house. After a year of maternity leave, I was returning to work today. My German skills were highly valued, and I was placed in the elite executive secretary division. I was assigned as the CEO's chief secretary.
An overseas business trip? No way. You know I can't manage on my own.
Should I ask Nancy to come over? You won't feel awkward with her.
Well, it's better than hiring an unknown babysitter like last time. She didn't talk to me all day.
Ethan had a fever that morning and couldn't go to daycare, so I had to hire a sitter last minute. I told her not to disturb you since you were writing all day. There's a mini fridge in your room and a bathroom right in front of your room. I thought you wouldn't need to cross paths.
That's a weak excuse. Fine. If it's mom, then okay.
A few days later, Nancy arrived at our home, surprisingly enthusiastic. She seemed happy to help Kyle, but didn't show any affection for Ethan. I couldn't fully focus on my business trips abroad, always worried about Ethan.
Ethan? No.
Nancy's voice echoed again today.
How many times do I have to tell you? Your father is working in the back. No jumping or making noise. And don't sing loudly. Your father is working hard, so don't disturb him.
Nancy, who had gradually moved in, scolded 6-year-old Ethan like this every day. A 6-year-old being rambunctious is a sign of good health. I'm always worried that Ethan might become withdrawn because of this. However, instead of being intimidated, Ethan has the guts to talk back boldly.
Why doesn't my dad go to work? Why is he home every day? What does he do at home? Other kid dads say they go out to eat together. I'd like to go to a diner or an Italian restaurant too.
Ethan is really cheeky. He's just like you, Kathy. What kind of upbringing leads a child to say things like that?
Nancy's lecture, or rather her complete criticism, was about to start again.
Even though you were married to someone who was 4 years younger, you still can't manage to properly discipline the kid. All you do is interfere with Kyle. You need to instill respect for the father figure, or he'll end up being violent toward his parents in the future. It's terrifying, like a future criminal. After seducing Kyle, you prioritize the kid over him. Are you satisfied now that you got what you wanted? Poor Kyle, deceived into marriage. You're always working, always busy. I end up cleaning up your mess. You claimed you'd handle all the housework and childcare, but you can't do it, can you? Where would you be without me?
I let her words go in one ear and out the other. Indeed, I sometimes rely on Nancy for help with Ethan. But Nancy's mind was always preoccupied with Kyle.
Hey, when is Dad going to be successful? He's been writing novels at home for 18 years, and none have been published. Is he doing anything about it? He's just waiting for something to happen, isn't he?
He's been submitting to various novel contests, but nothing has happened yet. He's also taken manuscripts directly to publishers, but the busy editors don't read them. I don't think they ever intended to read them. He mentioned some publishers have even banned him from submitting.
Maybe he doesn't have any talent. Someone has to tell him that, or he'll never wake up. How long has he been writing?
Kyle started when he was 14, so about 26 to 27 years. He wrote about his feelings when his father died, and his teacher praised him for it. That's when he started writing novels.
Mom, Grandma, that's harsh. He needs to hear it.
Some novelists only get recognized at 70. You have to believe that if you don't give up, it'll happen someday. I believe in Kyle's talent.
That's hopeless.
Kyle had been writing for 30 years. Finally, we received some good news.
It's a fluke. A fluke. I had the least confidence in this story. The first time I changed my style, and I won a special prize. What were these 30 years for?
Instead of celebrating, Kyle was even more troubled. He had always been difficult to deal with since we met. His anger was misdirected and slightly off. He's that sensitive, neurotic, and pure. But you got a job. Maxwell Publishers handles some well-known books. I think it's a good fit for you.
But it's just a short story, not a series. It's only a one-time thing. I might have to change my writing style.
Many people in the arts do jobs they don't want to do. If you want to complain, become important enough to call the shots. Unhappy with my words, Kyle returned to his room in a bad mood. The next day, Maxwell Publishers' editor, Stephanie, came to our house.
Starting today, I'll be in charge of Kyle's work. I'm Stephanie Meyer. Pleased to meet you.
She was bright, articulate, and pleasant. Kyle, who finally got assigned to his long-admired contact person, is in high spirits and quite pleased.
Are you home every day, Kathy?
I work on weekdays, but Nancy is here every day. My son, a university student, has finished job hunting, so he's often at home too.
I'll do my best not to be a bother to your family.
My husband is new to this, so he might be a bit troublesome. Thank you for your understanding. From that day on, Stephanie frequently visited our house to keep Kyle on track with his writing. Stephanie, would you like to join us for dinner? Stephanie, who had come to pick up Kyle's manuscript, was still waiting and sitting on the living room sofa.
If I don't get it by noon today, it won't make the deadline. Kyle has a quick turnaround for his short stories.
While eating, Stephanie continuously praised Kyle's work.
I've become a fan of Kyle's.
Those were the exact words I had said to Kyle 22 years ago.
He seems so kind and gentle, but his novels are so shocking. I'm totally hooked on his work.
Stephanie, you're amazing. Kathy has never once praised Kyle. Ethan has never even read Kyle's novels. Imagine that, a novelist's son who's so indifferent. It must be the way his mother raised him.
If today's short story goes well, there's a chance for a series, right?
I'm pushing hard for it.
Since he started working with you, Stephanie, my husband has changed. He's paying attention to his appearance, shaving every morning, and recently he went to a barber shop for the first time in decades. I used to cut his hair at home, but now he's even going to a salon.
He's even swapped his trademark traditional clothes for sweats and chinos at home. Seems like he's had a wake-up call, huh?
Stephanie is young and cute, so he wants to make a good impression.
Ew, gross. A man in his 40s trying to impress a woman in her 20s? That's disrespectful to Stephanie and would be considered harassment in any other context.
Ethan is always blunt. It makes me realize just how much he's grown. Nancy, is Kyle still holed up in a hotel?
He called earlier. He'll be at the hotel for the rest of the week.
He's acting like a big shot writer. Just because his short story did well, now he's writing 3 short pieces, and each is only 2 pages long. Yet he's staying at a hotel.
Ethan, you're so disrespectful. Your father is finally getting recognition and becoming famous. You should be proud of him. Speaking like that is unbecoming of a novelist's son. This is all because Kathy never acknowledges Kyle. That's why Ethan has the same attitude.
Ethan never liked Kyle much. He never played with him as a child. They hardly spoke. Ethan, especially during his teenage years, detested his father, who was so different from other dads. From a mother's perspective, I think Ethan has mellowed out quite a bit now.
Recently, your housework has been slipping. Just because Ethan is more independent doesn't mean you can slack off and work all the time.
I'm sorry. With staff cuts, we're really short-handed.
If you get laid off, this household is done for. Don't even think about relying on Kyle's earnings.
Kyle's income is still almost non-existent. Even though Maxwell Publishers offered him his first book deal, he's struggling to write. Successful authors get their books prominently displayed in stores. But an unknown author? One copy on a shelf, if that. No one will find it or pick it up. I'll vacuum while Kyle is out. When Kyle is home, I can never run the vacuum. Even the sound of the washing machine bothers him, so the loud vacuum is out of the question. Kyle hasn't changed his writing routine in his own room, and his writing desk hasn't changed since the beginning. Seeing Kyle sitting at his desk has always been a familiar sight in our home. What's this? Under the manuscript paper on the writing desk, there was a notebook that looked like a diary, not hidden at all. I didn't remember Kyle ever keeping a diary. Curiosity got the better of me, and I started flipping through the notebook. What? The notebook was filled with sweet words that one would give to a lover, enough to make me cringe with second-hand embarrassment. I had thought Kyle could never write a romance novel, but it seemed I was wrong. It was obvious the subject was Stephanie. However, the writing was clumsy and lacked any sensual content, as if he was unaccustomed to writing such things.
My only joy while staying at the hotel is sharing room service with Stephanie. The limited menu is frustrating, but Stephanie always orders a club sandwich. I can never decide and always take too long. Stephanie has started showing her true self recently, and it's startling. She's a bit of a basket case. My wife is a strong, capable career woman. She's never shown weakness or leaned on me. In contrast, Stephanie is young and leans on me, acts spoiled. When she looks like she's about to cry and says, "Why are you leaving?" I end up extending my stay by another night or two. Even when I'm home, I get bombarded with calls and texts. "If you don't come right now, I'll die. Tell me 10 things you love about me every day. Respond to my messages at least 10 times a day." Such demands were initially refreshing to me, but now, recently, she's become bold and wants to do it in my writing room at home. But to me, that room is sacred. When I refuse, she says, "I'll scream and say you forced me." Just like with my wife, I wonder what Stephanie sees in me. If I were a woman, I'd never choose someone like me. I have no money, status, or fame.
I closed the notebook and took a deep breath. It seemed Kyle, who I thought had such literary talent, became quite ordinary when it came to real love, which was disappointing. The same Kyle who wrote such imaginative prose was just a regular person in real life, which was shocking. And then a slow burning anger began to rise. Having an affair in this very room was disgusting.
Excuse me. Oh, Kathy, you're here today.
Is there a problem with that?
No, I just heard you were busy with work.
How about a tea break? I got some delicious tea. I brewed tea and served cookies. Stephanie, without any sign of guilt, seemed composed, which made me even angrier.
I'm excited about Kyle's first book. With his talent, it's bound to be a masterpiece.
I doubt it'll sell.
How can you say that? It would hurt Kyle, you know? You've always seemed like a bystander, but I've heard you were the first to inspire Kyle. You were his first fan, right?
Isn't that your role now?
Of course, I want my authors to write great works.
It seems your relationship goes beyond editor and author.
People often suspect that because editors and authors work closely. It's not uncommon for wives to feel jealous, but
Wait here. I dragged Kyle, who had just come home. This couldn't be resolved without him.
What's going on? Why did you drag me out here?
Kyle, are you having an affair with Stephanie? I never thought you would, but there's no point in denying it. I read your diary. Kyle looked flustered. Stephanie, however, remained completely unfazed.
if it's out in the open, so be it. Kyle and I are serious. I knew this moment would come, so let me be clear. Kyle and I have a connection from a past life. We died together in a double suicide back then. That's why we're destined to be together in this life.
What's so great about an old guy 10 or 20 years older? Someone like you could have plenty of young men chasing after you. Are you into older men?
Can you stop with these shallow comments? I believe Kyle's lack of success so far is partly due to you, Kathy. You, who should be closest to him, haven't inspired him at all. No great stories can come from a monotonous life.
Is that true, Kyle? Do you think you haven't succeeded because of me?
No, it's not that I expect that from you, Kathy.
Ha! Kyle, you're so honest. You've basically given up hope. You don't need someone useless like Kathy anymore, right, Kyle?
I wouldn't say useless. Kathy never interferes with my work. But well, Stephanie knows this industry. so she's the perfect partner for me.
Why don't you just say it? Being with me, not Kathy, is the right choice for your life.
Well, I guess that's what it comes down to.
I was too shocked to respond. Kyle saw our 22 years together as meaningless.
Why don't you tell her about that other thing?
Oh, but
Kyle seemed to have some guilt, but I didn't want his pity. If he was going to leave me, I'd rather he did it outright.
Kathy, Stephanie is pregnant. It seems I'll be a father again at this age.
Really? Do you think you can handle raising a child? You've never even held Ethan. You've never done anything fatherly, but now you think you can do it for Stephanie's child?
Raising a child might give me new insights for my writing. Stephanie told me I need to broaden my horizons and experience more.
That's not like you, Kyle. You've always built your stories from your own unique perspective. If Stephanie's advice can change your mind that easily, maybe you should quit being a writer. You don't have the talent. Holding back my tears, I hurled the harshest words I could think of. I'll give you what you want. I'll divorce you. Nancy was completely fooled by Stephanie's act and was thrilled about having Stephanie as her daughter-in-law. And so, Kyle and I got divorced. Around that time, I was offered an overseas transfer, and I immediately accepted.
So, Kathy, you're moving out then. Do as you please.
On moving day, Nancy was pushing me to hurry up. I'll be gone in 3 hours. Neither Kyle, Stephanie, nor Nancy understood what that meant. After the movers took my belongings, I got into a taxi to the airport. I wanted to see everything through to the end, but I left it in Ethan's hands. This is what Ethan told me happened 3 hours later.
What? What's going on here?
A large family moved into our house. They had 5 boys, all of them very noisy. Kyle and Nancy were stunned.
What's going on? Let's call the police. There's a strange family in our house.
Wait, I have a message from Mom. I'll read it.
This house is in my name. I paid the $50,000 down payment and have been paying the mortgage for 22 years. I've just finished paying it off. I considered selling the house because of my overseas transfer, but I thought Ethan would feel lonely without a home to return to. So, I decided to rent out the house, fully furnished, for the next 3 years. I'll be back in 3 years. Therefore, Kyle, Nancy, and Stephanie, you have no right to live here. Please leave immediately. If you don't comply, my lawyer will take appropriate action. By now, the new tenants, a large family, should be occupying the house. They have 5 boys, so it must be quite noisy and chaotic. Kyle, can you write amidst all this noise? Of course not, right, Nancy? Ethan was forbidden to make noise at home, and if he made even the slightest sound, Nancy would scold him. That's why Ethan walked on tiptoes. He lived constantly on edge, worrying about the adults around him. Well, if Kyle wins a big literary award, maybe you can move to a bigger house. Stephanie, you might stifle Kyle's talent, but try to create a good home and good works. But Stephanie's child will make noise too, right? Kyle always used the excuse, my work can only be born in silence. We made sure he had a quiet writing room, but why hasn't he produced any good works in 22 years? Maybe he just doesn't have the talent. Well, I look forward to seeing your book in stores. I won't buy it though.
That's what she said. Dad, Grandma, Stephanie. Give it up.
At that moment, all three came to their senses and knelt down. Afterward, Kyle and Nancy had no choice but to move into Stephanie's studio apartment. So, how's work? Going well?
It's tough, but I've realized how amazing you are, Ma.
Are you used to living alone?
Here's some big news. Dad got dumped by Stephanie. After you left for overseas, they were all crammed into a small apartment. Dad couldn't focus on writing. He tried writing at a coffee shop but couldn't get anything done. Eventually, Stephanie got fed up and left, leaving the kids behind.
She left the kids? That's unbelievable.
Stephanie's dream life didn't match reality. Everyone saw this coming. But it gets worse, which may affect me. Now we don't have any breadwinners, right? So Grandma started borrowing money from a loan shark, and now debt collectors are after her. Luckily, I have your last name, so they didn't come after me directly. Grandma came to me in tears, begging for money, saying it's my duty as her grandson. Finally, Dad and Grandma ran away in the night. Honestly, I feel relieved. I finally feel free.
I'm so glad I had Ethan. He turned out to be strong and reliable. Living abroad was comfortable. I felt so fulfilled that I wondered if it was okay for me to enjoy such a relaxed life alone.